Have you ever gone camping only to realize you're not alone in the woods? Tonight we'll dive into 3 terrifying stories that prove nature can be as beautiful as it is deadly. From mysterious sounds to strange sightings, these chilling tales will keep you on the edge of your seat. Are you ready for a journey into the unknown? Make sure you stick around until the end. You won't want to miss a single detail. You might think you know what to expect, but trust us, what lies ahead is far more frightening than you can imagine. Sarah and her friends, Mike and Jenna, decided to take a weekend camping trip in the Appalachian Mountains. Excited to escape the city, they packed their gear and set off on a Friday evening. After a long drive, they finally reached their campsite. As darkness fell, they set up their tents and started a campfire, sharing ghost stories and laughing. It was a perfect night until the stories turned real. As the fire crackled, Sarah noticed strange shadows darting between the trees. At first, she brushed it off as her imagination fueled by the eerie tales they had shared. But when Jenna caught sight of it too, their laughter faded into a nervous silence. They tried to convince themselves it was just wildlife, but the shadows seemed too deliberate, too man-like. Later that night, while Sarah was in her tent, she heard whispers just outside. It sounded like someone was talking, but the words were muffled and indistinguishable. Heart racing, she peeked outside and saw nothing. Just as she was about to settle back down, she heard the whisper again, this time closer. "Get out," it said. Chills ran down her spine. She shook her friends awake, but they laughed it off, thinking she was just spooked. The next morning, they found their camp scattered, gear missing or moved. Panic set in as they realized they weren't alone. They decided to hike back to their car, but as they walked, they felt eyes watching them. Every rustle in the bushes sent their hearts racing. Suddenly, Mike stopped, pointing to a tree with a symbol carved into it, a crude drawing of a face with hollow eyes, reminiscent of the shadows they had seen. Night fell again, and they chose to leave the campsite. However, as they packed, they heard footsteps surrounding them. They felt trapped. The whispers returned, echoing all around them, "Stay with us." Frantically, they ran towards the car, not daring to look back. They drove away, but the feeling of being watched lingered. To this day, Sarah swears that every time she goes camping, she can still hear those whispers, calling her back to the forest. Jake was an avid hiker, known for tackling the toughest trails. One weekend, he decided to hike a remote path known for its breathtaking views and serenity. As he ventured deeper into the woods, he felt a strange sense of peace. The towering trees and chirping birds enveloped him in nature's embrace. After a few hours of hiking, he reached a clearing with a beautiful view of the valley below. As he took pictures, he noticed a figure in the distance, standing alone at the edge of the trees. Curious, Jake called out, "Hey, are you lost?" The figure didn't respond. Instead, it turned and disappeared into the woods. Concerned, Jake decided to investigate. He followed the path the figure had taken, calling out, but there was only silence. As evening approached, he realized he had lost track of time. He needed to head back, but the path seemed unfamiliar. The sun dipped below the horizon and darkness enveloped the forest. Suddenly, he heard rustling nearby. He turned to see the same figure again, closer this time. It was a woman, pale and ghostly, staring blankly at him. Jake's heart raced as he stumbled back, feeling an overwhelming sense of dread. "Help me," she whispered, but her voice was hollow. As he approached her, she saw Zilar. She dissolved into the shadows, leaving behind only an eerie silence. Confused and frightened, Jake turned to leave, but the path had vanished. Panic set in as he realized he was lost, with no idea how to get back. The night grew colder and strange sounds echoed around him, whispers, footsteps, and the sound of branches snapping. He ran, desperate to escape. Finally, he found a small cabin, hoping for shelter. Inside, he found remnants of a life once lived, dusty furniture, and a cracked mirror. He felt a chill run down his spine as he noticed the reflection of the woman in the mirror, smiling back at him. Jake sprinted out, but the whispers grew louder, drowning out his thoughts. "Stay with us," they chanted. He ran until he finally found the main road and flagged down a passing car. He never returned to those woods again, but he swears he can still hear her voice on the wind, calling him back to join her in the shadows. Lily, Tom, and Nick planned a camping trip to a secluded site rumored to be haunted. Legends spoke of campers who had vanished without a trace, their last moments filled with terror. Despite the warnings, they were excited for an adventure. After setting up their tents, they gathered around the fire, sharing stories of the supposed hauntings. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation, and they laughed at the tales of spirits and lost souls. As night fell, they decided to explore the nearby woods. Armed with flashlights, they ventured deeper, laughing and joking. However, the laughter faded when they stumbled upon an old, abandoned campsite. The tents were tattered, and remnants of old campfires lay scattered about. Curiosity piqued, they examined the site, but a sense of dread washed over them. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through, extinguishing their flashlights. Panic set in as they fumbled to turn them back on. When they finally managed to get the lights working, they found strange symbols carved into the trees surrounding the campsite. They hurried back to their own tents, brushing off the unease. That night, as they tried to sleep, Lily heard whispers outside her tent. "Help us," they pleaded. Terrified, she shook Tom awake, but he insisted it was just the wind. Convinced it was a figment of her imagination, she tried to ignore it. However, the whispers grew louder, more urgent. Unable to withstand it, she crawled out of her tent and saw a figure standing at the edge of the trees, a woman in white, her face obscured. Lily gasped and stumbled back, waking Tom and Nick. They rushed out but found nothing. As they stood there bewildered, they noticed their campsite had been rearranged. Their gear was scattered as if someone had rifled through it. Fear took hold as they decided to pack up and leave. Just as they turned to go, the whispers intensified, calling their names. They sprinted towards their car, heart racing. As they reached it, Tom glanced back and saw the woman again, closer this time, her eyes glowing in the darkness. They jumped into the car and sped away, vowing never to return. But as they drove, they could still hear the whispers echoing in their minds, haunting them long after they had escaped the woods. Emily and her friends Alan and Christina had always loved outdoor adventures. One day they decided to go camping in the Sierra Nevada woods. The area was known for its scenic views and solitude. They planned to spend the weekend enjoying nature and in each other's company. So on the first day, they hiked several kilometers and set up camp by a beautiful lake, surrounded by tall trees. At night, as they sat around the campfire, Emily noticed strange footprints on the ground nearby. They were small but distinct, resembling human tracks, yet too small for an adult. Alan joked that they were probably from local myths about child spirits wandering the forest. Emily felt a twinge of unease, but her friends reassured her. The next morning, they discovered that one of the tents was slightly ajar, even though they were sure they had secured it before sleeping. Strange occurrences continued to escalate. Throughout the day, they found more tracks, and even a few broken branches, as if someone were watching them. Each time they tried to hike the trail, the feeling of being observed grew stronger. On the third day, while hiking to a waterfall, Alan heard faint childlike laughter. It was off the trail, and without waiting for the others, he decided to check it out. When Emily and Christina realized Alan had gone too far, they started to worry. Emily shouted his name, but there was no answer. Soon they decided to search for him. When they reached the place where they heard the laughter, everything was quiet. They found only a small, wilted flower arrangement neatly placed on the ground. As evening approached, they returned to their camp, but still no sign of Alan. Panic set in as they called for him and searched the area, but with no results. When darkness fell, Emily and Christina noticed that their tent was completely overturned. The fire had gone out, and strange sounds filled the air, soft footsteps and whispers that they couldn't quite make out. Suddenly, they heard Alan's voice calling them from the other side of the forest. Emily and Christina, filled with fear, rushed toward the sound, but they quickly realized this wasn't the Alan they knew. It was a soft, altered voice, as if someone was imitating his manner of speaking. They soon became lost in the woods, and as a strong wind picked up, the sounds grew more sinister. Finally, they stumbled upon an empty clearing where they saw strange symbols carved into the ground. They were childlike drawings and signs that they had seen in their youth, but never thought they would encounter in real life. These markings were crude but had an unsettling significance. Suddenly, they felt something cold touch their shoulders, and a hysterical laughter erupted. Emily and Christina, without waiting for explanations, bolted, not daring to look back. They found a path that seemed to lead them back to the camp, and finally made it to their car. Their hearts raced, and neither of them could comprehend what had happened to Alan. The next day, when they reported his disappearance, the search party found neither him nor any signs pointing to his whereabouts. Emily and Christina vowed never to return to that forest, but the whispers and laughter haunted them even in their calmest dreams. If you enjoyed these stories and want to hear more real-life accounts of terrifying events that happened while camping, subscribe to our channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. We are ready to tell even more chilling stories if we get 100 likes. The woods hold many secrets, and perhaps your next camping trip will turn into your personal nightmare.